I'd like to welcome you to the Surfray sponsored webinar on 5 questions every administrator should ask their users to improve SharePoint search. I know that's a bit of a mouthful there. My name is Josh Noble and I am co-author of the book Pro SharePoint 2010 Search. I'm also a search consultant with Surfray, which is the developer of the Ontolica search enhancement for SharePoint, and we're a company that really focuses on across the board improving your access to information within SharePoint. Our presentation today is a little bit different than some of the past presentations we've done, and I've made sure on the PowerPoint deck to actually link into some of our past presentations. Today we're going to be looking at actually ways to diagnose what you should improve in SharePoint search. In many of our past webinars we've looked at how you actually make improvements. So for example, if you want to actually create a new custom search refiner, how do you go about doing that? We've looked at how to do that both in base SharePoint and then how to do that a bit easier through Ontolica for SharePoint. But today we need to look at how do we actually know what search refiners to make? How do we know how to structure our content? How do we diagnose ways to actually improve our SharePoint environment? So to start off, I put together a little brief review slide of the SharePoint maturity model. This is a presentation that was given a couple weeks ago by Torben Ellert, and it is based off of the SharePoint maturity model from Sandalit Van Buren. So I have put a link into that so that you can check that out. Then we'll go through 5 different kind of diagnosis questions, and these would obviously be tweaked when you ask them to your particular set of users to make them a bit more specific to your particular environment. But they're all designed to diagnose very, very different sets of needs for improvements within your SharePoint environment. So we'll go through those, but keep in mind they are designed to be something that you can tweak slightly when you ask them to your particular users. But most importantly, they're all designed to be actionable. They tell you something real that you can actually improve within your environment. So we'll take a look at that, and then if you are watching this from our live presentation, we're also doing Q&A as well. If you're not watching the live presentation, if you're watching the recording of this, then make sure to check out our future webinars found at surfray.com, because we do live Q&A at the end of those. So the first thing we want to review is what does it mean to actually improve our SharePoint search maturity? If we're going to ask questions of our users to improve search, we kind of need to have a goal in mind. And I have put a link to a webinar all about this particular subject that's found at surfray.com. But as Torben reviewed a few weeks ago, the first thing that you have at maybe a level 100 of your SharePoint environment is just out-of-the-box functionality. Out of the box, SharePoint allows you to crawl content, do basic queries, get back results. It even has some basic SharePoint search refiners that are not customized. As environments become more mature, you'll notice that the first thing that people start to do is apply I filters. For example, the PDF I filter, so you can actually index content that's PDFs. You also notice custom scopes being generated so that people can quickly choose those from a little drop down next to the search box, and those are geared towards basic improvements to aid the search user experience, and those are things that you found back in like SharePoint 2003. As we move forward, now we're starting to look at level 300 that SharePoint search results are actually being analyzed. We're starting to apply things like best bets, synonyms. We're starting to request custom metadata properties from our users, and those metadata properties can then be used on the advanced search page. They can be used in scopes, and we can even use those for things like custom search refiners. I would say most SharePoint deployments that we look at tend to come in at about the 250 to 300 mark. There's not a lot of companies that have spent enough time, and at least in my opinion, really going in and analyzing how do we improve our SharePoint environment, which is kind of funny because that's the first place that most people go. I mean, think about your own experiences with your just normal web browser for personal use. Usually, our first page that we have as our home page is something like MSN or Google, where it has a search box right there, and that's your first thing that you do when you access your daily personal computer use. Well, when people access your SharePoint environment, that's the exact same experience. So it's odd to me that people haven't gotten a lot farther than this. But then again, there's not a ton of information out around how to get yourself to the next step past level 300. As you get to past level 300, we're jumping here to level 400, you'll start to notice that people are applying custom content types and custom properties in the advanced search page. Now we're talking about customized search refiners, custom fields on the advanced search page. And now you're actually talking about completing the circle on search with things such as menu actions on search results that are actually actionable, and those can be done by default with something like Ontolica, or you can script them into, say, base SharePoint or fast search. But the point here is now search becomes full circle. Not only is it finding information, but it's actually doing things with the information once you found it. And then finally, as we reach this plateau goal of level 500, users start to understand the relationships between informations. Your users might actually understand what a metadata property is. They start to tag information. We start to analyze what click patterns are being used, and maybe automatically tag both metadata and just tags within SharePoint. And we also talk about scalability. This is where things like fast come into play, where you need to index over 100 million items. So search becomes very customized as well to your users. You're creating user experiences that are meaningful to who you are, not just the fact that you're accessing the SharePoint farm. So you create customized search experiences. One of the easiest examples of this is maybe you have a SharePoint public-facing site. Your anonymous users might have one search experience, and as you log in, your search experience completely changes. Ferrari.com does a good example of this. By default, just being anonymous, you get things like news feeds coming back in your search results. But you don't get the really juicy stuff from Ferrari, such as the images and the videos. They actually make you log in before you can get that sort of content. And that's what we're talking about in terms of audience-targeted search experiences. So now that we have a little bit of a baseline around what does it mean to actually improve the maturity within our SharePoint search environment, now we have some questions to ask to that'll help us diagnose how to get from a earlier stage of search maturity up to a higher stage of search maturity. And the first thing that we need to find out is, are we actually accessing the information that we intend to? Is SharePoint crawling the right document libraries? Are there proper permissions assigned to our users so they can actually index or access that information? Do you have the right eye filters installed? So for example, if your users come back to you and say, you know what, I'm not able to find PDFs within my environment, you know you probably have an issue with the PDF eye filter and need to go about addressing that particular issue. What I've done throughout these different questions, if you look at our slide deck, I have linked in to various different past webinars that we've hosted. And these webinars show you how to do some of the things that we talk about here. So in this case, with this question, what content do you commonly look for that you can't quickly find through search? Obviously that's pretty broad, but as you dive into the details there, again, if people start telling you PDFs are not accessible, this document library isn't accessible, this federated location isn't accessible, and it probably should be, well, you need to go look at, is the content source actually crawled? Are the eye filters installed? Are permissions in place? Maybe you don't have metadata that has been mapped properly. Maybe you've set up the values and you've collected the values, but you haven't mapped it so people aren't able to quickly find that particular property through search. So through here, by asking this question, there's several different things that you might find out about your particular environment. So it's looking for trends also between different user groups. Maybe people within your engineering department are able to find that content, but people within your sales department that should be able to find that content can't, and that might be something like a permissions issue. Now that you've actually figured out and made sure that you're crawling all the correct content, that you're accessing the right content, let's move into how do you actually allow your users to take huge amounts of information and drill them down to small, more meaningful search result sets. Your users probably don't know what the term faceted search is, but they definitely know how to use it. Faceted search or search refiners are one of the easiest ways that people can cut very large result sets, like I mentioned, down to small, more meaningful result sets. These are things that you find all over the web, and there are several that are available in SharePoint 2010 and Fast by default. These are not something that you find in earlier versions of SharePoint. If you tell your users to go check out a site like, say, bestbuy.com, when they search for something very general like TV, they'll probably pull back hundreds of results. But your users already know how to fix that problem. On the left-hand side of the screen, Best Buy gives your users options. It says, okay, you've searched for TV. What brand of TV do you want? Do you want a Panasonic, a Sony, or a Samsung? What price range are you willing to pay for this TV? What type of TV technology do you want? Do you want a plasma or LED or an LCD? And they allow your users to quickly drill from big result sets down to small result sets. But SharePoint 2010 by default is just giving you refiners for, say, author, site, and file type. It's not giving you very customized experiences, and your users are probably looking for very customized things within your environment. As we talked about on Best Buy, you can narrow by things like TV size, manufacturer, or price. But maybe you're an engineering company. Maybe your users want to be able to refine in on material type, product type, and platform, and that might be something that's useful for them. Maybe you're a law firm. Your users might want to be able to refine in on legal subject, financial burden, or jurisdiction. Maybe again, if you're a legal department and you're using people search, your people might want to be able to drill in on people search by legal specialty or skill set. So these can really go a long way, but you need to find out what types of refiners are available to your users. When your users indicate to you what they actually would like to refine in on, and you figure this out by finding out what categories that they would group things into. The first thing that you need to look at is what type of metadata do you actually need to collect. Again, if you're a law firm and legal subject is not something that is already being asked from your users when they upload a document, you need to make a column on your document libraries and start requesting that information from your users. That way, later on, you're actually going to be able to build a search refiner on it, build a scope on it, build an advanced search field on it. After you've actually collected metadata, then you need to figure out exactly what search refiners to make. And those metadata columns that you created should be a pretty good indication of that. And obviously the answers to these questions would be a pretty good indication of that. Almost every one of the questions after question 2 here will apply to figuring out what type of search refiners that you want. If you don't know how to customize search refiners, if you don't know how to collect metadata, again, there are webinars on surfray.com specifically with instruction on how to do that, and I've linked to those to this particular slide deck. The last thing here, you'll notice that if search refiners, certain ones might only be useful to particular documents. If I'm an engineering company, my engineers might want to refine on material type and MSDS code. But my sales team might want to refine on things like product type or customer type. So In base SharePoint, you can create two different search centers with two different sets of refiners that work completely different. Now, what you can't do, unfortunately, is create one search center that functions differently. That's a feature that you can set up with something like the Ontolica search enhancement for SharePoint, but it's not an out-of-the-box SharePoint functionality. But the goal here is figuring out, what do people want to refine in on, and are there different groups of people that want to refine in on different content? Here you actually see an example of this. With Ontolica, we do have things like up at the top where you see custom quick filters, and these are somewhat similar to refiners, but they're pre-built search strings. But on the left-hand side of the page here, you'll notice that this is an engineering a company that works on energy products. So they've set up sites or set up refiners for energy type, and they've set up refiners for different case numbers and project name. So these are different custom refiners that you could set up. You can script these in base SharePoint or fast. You can also set them up pretty easily in Ontolica within just a couple minutes. Stepping back from search refiners a little bit, one of the things you might want to find out is your site structured in the right way? Does it make sense the way that information is clustered with your environment? For example, do you want your sites to be grouped by department, or do you want them to be grouped by product group? That type of information access, that type of structuring of your content, structuring your taxonomies can be very, very important later on to how you build search refiners, to how you build scopes within your environment. And aside from search, how do people actually navigate within the silos of your particular site? That's also very, very important when we talk about public-facing websites. You notice that there's some really, really bad public-facing websites out there that don't really make sense on how they've structured their content, where they've placed the web pages or maybe product information. And there's some very, very good websites out there that make a lot more sense on how they structure their content. So you do need to ask your users information about how they would structure their content. If they could create their own ideal solution for a library, how would they build that out? And that tells you not only how do you structure your content, but also what sort of metadata to collect. Maybe you need to structure your content in a certain way. You need to build taxonomies a certain way. But in regards to search, you can tag content with certain metadata that then makes it feel like it's structured slightly different. If, for example, I need to structure my site so that the different sites are grouped by department, but I do have product groups that are scattered throughout those different departments, why not add a metadata field for product group to all my documents? So later on, when I want to build things like a search refiner, I can then access information in that way and not just my rigid structure of my site. So you do need to take that definitely into account when you're building search. That also has to tie in as well to how you do things like site refiners. Here you'll notice that site structure is very important. On the left-hand side, you notice that we have different document libraries that are structured in different ways. We have document libraries for sales reports, for different types of projects. So that can be very important to different types of groups. We'll also notice that I do have custom metadata even within this document library, so that if somebody isn't exactly happy with the way that things have been structured here, that metadata can be used later on for search refiners or advanced search fields. If you're interested on how you actually structure or build a document library, or how you add in custom metadata, or more importantly, not only how you add it, but how you request that information from your users and make sure it's tagged appropriately, make sure to check out our previous webinars that are recorded on those subjects. Each one of those is probably a 30-minute subject all on its own. Question 4 then comes into, what types of synonyms and best bets do we create? These are things that have been around for a while in SharePoint, but I don't see as many companies using them as they really should, primarily because they do take a little bit of time to build out. A synonym is is a correlation between multiple terms. What I mean by that is maybe somebody comes to your environment and they type in USA. That should return results for USA, US, United States, United States of America. There's really a large number of terms that all should mean the same thing. But if information within your environment is not tagged so that it pulls back the results based off of any of those terms I just mentioned, then search isn't exactly going to be very, very relevant for you. It's really common that people will use different types of acronyms, that they will misspell terms, or they won't say something in the exact right way or search for something in the exact right way that you expected them to. So when you create a synonym, you can say that United States, USA, United States of America, US, those all mean the exact same thing, and pull back all the content relevant to that. Similar to synonyms are best bets. What a best bet is it takes those terms, take for example those ones I just mentioned, and it will go into your document result set within search and will pull out the single most relevant result that you have set up. So let's say that you have a policies and procedures document that is changed from time to time. Well, when somebody types in the term policy or somebody types in the term procedure, there is one particular document that you know is probably the most relevant thing that they're looking for. You can set up a best bet so that every time they enter policy, every time they search for procedure, that one document is highlighted and pulled to the very top of your search results set. This is kind of similar to the ad campaigns that you see out on a place like Google, or the banners that you see across e-commerce sites. Take, for example, an e-commerce site like BMW's website. BMW might choose to set up a best bet so that every time somebody accidentally searches for something like TT Quattro or maybe a Cayman, those might be similar cars to something that that BMW already offers. Well, the last thing that BMW wants to do is have no results come back when somebody searches for TT Quattro or Cayman. Instead, what they might choose to do is every time a document or a word like that is searched for, the top result within the set is maybe an advertisement for a Z4. And furthermore, maybe they even have a comparison document. Why is a Z4 better than those different other types of cars? So those best bets can become very, very important within both intranets and public-facing sites. The answer to this question might also make you recognize that you have some problems with your naming conventions. Maybe you're using acronyms that don't really make sense to people. So users are usually pretty vocal about those types of things. Here within this slide you actually see two different types of best bets, and this is standard fast search for SharePoint. You see a normal best bet. The second result down there is just starred. That could be highlighted as well. And what we've done is every time somebody searches for SharePoint, that result surfaces as the first result within the set. And that's just a normal best bet that you would get with standard out-of-the-box SharePoint 2010. That's also available in previous versions of SharePoint. If you have fast, or if you have Ontolica search for SharePoint, you can now make things that are called visual best bets. And those are full HTML banners. Those are graphical best bets. Those are the types of things that you find out more on public-facing sites, but they can also be just as important internal to your site for branding purposes. Maybe you have a SharePoint extranet portal where your customers access. Those visual best bets could mean real business dollars for your users if you can push a graphical image to somebody. The final thing that we might want to diagnose is how do we improve the experiences involving the advanced search page within SharePoint. If you ask my colleague Torben Ellert, he'll tell you that the advanced search page within SharePoint, or the advanced search page period, is the devil. People should never have to go to the advanced search page. And in an ideal world, I completely agree with him. People are not happy at the point that they have to go to the advanced search page. They want search to work like Google. That's the usual request I get day in and day out, is how do we make our SharePoint search work like Google? And people do need to recognize that in search within an intranet is very, very different than search for a public-facing site, but that's a rant all in its own. So by asking these types of questions regarding the advanced search page, we first figure out what fields do we need to put on the advanced search page to make it useful. I would usually recommend go look at your metadata columns that you've created. Go look at the search refiners you've created and make fields on the advanced search page that mirror those. If you have a metadata column, people should be able to search on it. Furthermore, if you have a field on the advanced search page, don't just stop with making a free text field. If you have certain terms, maybe you have about 20 terms that are relevant to that particular advanced search field, why not create a drop-down box for people to be able to choose the exact term that they're looking for? That way they don't have to remember the exact query for those few terms that will be relevant to them. If you have, let's say, 100 fields that are relevant to an advanced search field within SharePoint, maybe you want to give them a lookup dialog box. That way they can see a list of all 100 properties and just choose the ones that they want and search on those. But whatever you do, try and avoid providing people with advanced search fields that are just free text fields, because those are not anywhere near as helpful to people as providing them options. That also goes for metadata collection as well. When you collect metadata, I usually recommend providing options for people to tag their documents with. The next thing that the answers to this question tell us is what type of improvements can we make to the basic search center within SharePoint so that people don't have to go to the advanced search page? How do we build quick filters with things like Ontolica, with the Ontolica search enhancements, so that somebody can click one button and automatically throw together a big search string that they would otherwise need to go and configure all the time in advanced search? Maybe there's certain scopes that will throw together a string, a query string that would be useful to our people so they don't have to go to the advanced search page. Maybe there's search refiners. Maybe there's things that we can change within our relevancy model of SharePoint so that it actually ranks things more appropriately so people don't need to go to the advanced search page. A lot of different considerations around this. Again, these ones that have blue links here, we do have webinars all about this particular subject. So make sure to check out our full webinars all about how to work with relevancy ranking models, how to build advanced search pages out, how to build search refiners, because those are all subjects all on their own. I like to show this one page because this particular client of ours is using Ontolica Search and Search Preview to improve to merge actually their advanced search page with their simple search page. You'll notice that they provide quick filters on the right-hand side to allow people to throw in really custom query strings very quickly. They've also provided custom scopes from a drop-down on the left-hand side there, and that allows people to not have to go to an advanced search page because they've done a little analysis of their site and they figured out here are the things that people are going to the advanced search page to find. So we can knock out our advanced search page altogether and provide those experiences right on the query field on the home page of our site. They didn't even need to go as far as creating search refiners for those particular things because people are finding the information they're looking for right off the back instead of having to find the search page and then even further refine in on that. So providing these nice consolidated experiences can be a real big benefit to your users, but before you can provide these consolidated experiences, you need to find out what your people actually want. With that, I'll wrap up our webinar on questions to ask your users to improve SharePoint search. Again, my name's Josh Noble, and I am a SharePoint search consultant with Surfray. I've also had on the line answering questions Robert Piddock, who is one of my colleagues here and our lead SharePoint consultant here in North America. He's also the author of a couple books that you can see here. One of them is already out, Pro SharePoint 2010 Search. search. The other one is one that he has in the works right now that's all about improving fast search server for SharePoint. So make sure to reach out. More than happy to answer any questions you have about how to actually improve search within your real environment, and also how to improve the access to information, whether that's through document libraries, through structuring your site better, through providing better previews of your documents. So make sure to reach out. More than happy to provide any information there. Also follow us at SurfRay on Twitter. Every 2 weeks we do a different presentation on a new topic regarding search and information access. So if you make sure to follow us on Twitter, you will get information about those.